Hello and welcome back to Lessons from a Park Bench. I'm Michael Clark. I'm one of your co-hosts for this show. We're very excited to be back. Jake and I are going to start working on different things to make this show better and more accurate, to make this show one of the best web shows on the internet. We're hoping to put it on YouTube and other things. I want to thank you for tuning in because today we're going to look at Adam. Have you ever walked this earth alone, completely and utterly alone? Well, you might have felt that way, but I'm sure you haven't completely been alone. Adam was alone. When Adam was created, according to Genesis 2, he was alone. He was given the job of naming all the animals, and when he did, he noticed that all the animals had a partner. The lions had 2 lions. The turtles had 2 turtles. The cheetahs had 2 cheetahs, but Adam had no partner. Adam had no other half. God saw this and knew that it was not good for man to be alone. And so he put Adam into a deep sleep and took a rib from him and created a woman. It's called woman because she was taken out of man. Her name was Eve. Now Adam, when he saw Eve, said, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." He loved Eve. Now, Adam also had issues. Just like Jake mentioned about Aaron, you're not going to find anyone on this earth that's name is not Jesus without finding someone that has flaws. Adam and Eve were given one commandment. You can eat anything. That God gave them a paradise. In the Garden of Eden, he said, you can eat of all these trees except one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat of this tree, that day you eat of it, you're going to die. That's a pretty simple commandment, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You can understand that when it's told to you. Adam and Eve obeyed this commandment until Satan came in the form of a serpent and asked Eve, did God really say that if you ate of any tree in this garden that you would die? Which was a lie, because God said all except one tree. You can have every tree but this one. So, Satan knew that. And Eve said, no, we can have all these trees except one. Well, he says, well, why can't you have that? She says that's God's will, and he says, well, no, God knows that the day you eat of it, you're going to become smart like God, you'll be like God. And he doesn't want you to have his power, which is another lie. God didn't want them to have the sin of the world, to know what's going on in the world, to have to know what the world was like. He wanted them to live in a paradise. And he gave them that commandment, and he also wanted to test them to show how much they loved God. He gives us free agency every day when you sin. If you sin, God doesn't just say, okay, well, I gave you this many chances, you're gone. He says, I love you enough to give you a second chance. And he gives you many chances throughout your life. Adam and Eve, once they were tempted, Eve looked at the fruit and saw that it was good for food, that it was a tree to make one wise, it was pleasant to the eyes, and she took a bite of it. We don't know what fruit it is. Apple likes to try to think that it is an apple by putting a bite out of the apple on their products, but the Bible doesn't tell us what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. All we know is that they weren't supposed to eat it. Now, she gives it to her husband, Adam. And Adam, following example, like most of us do every day, takes the apple, or whatever it was, and bites it. Once he bites this fruit, they both realize that they've sinned and that they're naked. And they clothe themselves, not effectively, as we'll see later. And then they hear that God's coming, and they hide from God, which only one other man has tried to do this successfully, and it didn't work, Jonah. God knows where you are. God was walking about the garden and says, Adam, where are you? And he says, why have you hid yourself? Which is a rhetorical question. God knows everything. He wants Adam to say it. He wants Adam to own up and tell him what he did wrong. Adam said, I knew I was naked and I hid myself from you. Another rhetorical question. Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Have your parents, when you were little and they caught you doing something wrong, ever asked you, were you watching TV when the remote's in your hand and it's obvious that you've been watching TV? Yeah, they know. They want you to tell them. They know that you've done this. Well, Adam knows that God knows that he's now done this, and he says, yes, Lord, I did that. Because of that woman you gave him. He blames the woman that God gave him, which really means he blames God. The problem in that is you cannot blame God for your sins. You can't blame anyone but yourself. Eve couldn't point at Satan and said it was his fault he tempted us. It was her fault. Adam had to blame himself. Well, God goes on to a tirade about what they did was wrong, and he tells Eve what's going to be her problem. He tells the serpent what's going to be his problem. He tells Adam that they're now going to die. And he also tells Adam that from now on you have to till the ground to get your food. It's not going to be provided for you. You're kicked out of the Garden of Eden and you're done. Adam's going to face many more hardship in his life. One of his sons is going to kill his brother. Cain and Abel are both of Adam's sons, and Cain is going to kill Abel, which should be heartbreaking for a parent to lose a child, but also heartbreaking to know that it was your other child that killed him. Adam will live to be 930 years old before he dies. That's a pretty long life, but he could have lived forever. I want to thank you for watching Lessons from a Park Bench. Tune in next week. I'll be in California recording Eve. Thank you for watching, and good night.